Hopefully that's it's in. Yay, it works. It's working. Doing the show too at the same time, so it's just finishing up a commercial there for Serenity Rugs. I don't know. Guys, if you listen to the radio show and you're like, what are those ads that play? They're just ads from people who sponsor Freedomizer, not necessarily me or my show, but they put their ads up on Freedomizer, and they have all these audio clips that they're like, if you need ways to buffer in between time, then just play these. So for those that are like, do you use that stuff? No, not all of it. Not that I don't trust it. I just don't currently use any of it. But yeah, you can always advertise on a site like that. So if you know of any companies that are also pro the medical freedom movement, send them over to Freedomizer, because a lot of great shows on there, but they have to be okay with the things that we talk about. That's also why I get that there's a lot of different companies out there, different brands, but I'm all about, so for this platform, with people that are asking, like, how are you managing? Well, I've really gone significantly down in the amounts of weddings and shoots that I'm taking, like nearly half. And I was like, well, I'll supplement that time then with my insurance meetings, which this time last year, I was doing like 10 a week minimum. Now I've gone down to maybe 2 to 3. So since my platform is pretty much private and I want to keep it that way, it's really hard when people do approach and say, hey, we have a product we want to send to you, samples, XYZ, and I always have to warn them, well, this is what I talk about. This is what the platform is. And, I'll happily talk about the product if it's something that I actually end up using. And that's, as you guys understand, really few and far between how that comes. So when companies do come around that are like pro the medical freedom movement, don't want me to shut up like other companies would, which I will not name them here. But, then of course I'm like, well, if I love the product and you're okay with me talking about what I talk about 90% of the time, then that's awesome. And so that's kind of how this has been going. For those that are like, what is she doing? What is she up to? But anyways, so Enzo and his eyebrows, huh? I know I was laughing looking through a lot of those comments. And yes, I knew about the last photo. That's kind of why I placed it where I placed it. It's just a funny caption, this type of moments. He is a very, I don't even want to say judgmental baby. That's what we call him, but he's very expressive for sure. And he just does not trust initially, versus Sebastian and Amelia, they'd look at you if you were a stranger and they would just be like happy to see you as babies. Like Enzo's not happy to see you. So don't, it takes a little bit. It takes a little bit to get him to smile. You got to do something that's going to impress the little guy for him to get, crack a smile, which is okay. I'm okay with that. Amelia was just way too comfortable with strangers, and it always bothered us just a little bit. So yeah. Breaking down later on in the radio show, I'm not going to keep it to a live, is going to be more about the demise and the what's happening actually to our men. But I have a lot of you guys who already know that what we do with the breast milk and how big that is, obviously, in our lives. I just want to reiterate on how, God really just knew what he was doing, when he put all of this together, when he set us up. And I want to share this photo, and I hate using, of course, this Scary Mommy blog posted it. I hate this blog to begin with, by the way. But I posted this before, this mother's post. Her name is Jody Danielle Fisher. She obviously left her name public for everyone to see. She left her post public. She had put up pictures of her breast milk I'm sure you guys have seen this. It's circulated. So this was her post. You know, I shared it to my Facebook page as well, which also remains private. Here's what she posted, okay? And she's pro-vaccine. So look at her milk from the day before her injections. Okay, I want you to check this out. And here's the milk 2 days after injections. All right? This is what she says. Nancy had her 1-year injections on Tuesday afternoon. The normal color milk is from the day before she had them. The blue color milk is from today, 2 days after she had them. It's blue from all the antibodies my body is producing as it thinks she's sick with what she was vaccinated against. When she feeds, her saliva sends signals to my body to produce more milk with illness-specific antibodies. This is one of the reasons I'm still breastfeeding 13 months on. You don't get all this goodness and nutrients from formula or cow's milk. Way to go, boobies. Okay, she's definitely right about this. You will never get nutrients like you do from breast milk in formula, ever. Not ever, not even in organic formula, which still uses, many of them still use some form of high fructose corn syrup, which is basically sugar that you're giving your kid. She's saying her milk isn't this color from what she's eaten. She's had nothing artificial colors, no supplements. My milk is only ever this color when my daughter has been sick. It's never been like it when she's been well. Okay, so this goes to show the vaccines are doing exactly what they're meant to do, and so is my daughter's body and mine. Whole point of vaccinations is to introduce a very weakened version of the virus you want immunity over. Okay. So obviously there is a lot wrong with this. When you initially read the post, a part of you wants to say, doesn't that maybe tell you that you shouldn't be putting that stuff in your baby's bodies? And so she, you know, this mom, she had to have been prepared for what was about to happen with a post like this. It obviously, you know, you're going to get the people that come in on both sides of the argument. I didn't even comment on it. I shared the post because I wanted people to see the difference. My milk has changed color when I've done, like, for iron supplements, the chlorophyll. You know how it's really green. If I drink a glass of that and then within an hour or two I'm pumping, my milk will kind of be a little bit green. But what many people are not really understanding about breast milk to begin with, and I quote her often because I love her and she really just has this down. She's been at it for decades already, so it's like turning to the experts on this topic. But I follow Dr. Suzanne Humphries for a lot of even just her vitamin C protocol. So if you have kids and you are concerned or confused with how to deal with just very minor childhood illnesses and what to do, she has this amazing vitamin C protocol that you should follow, and you just literally need to Google Dr. Suzanne Humphries vitamin C protocol. I can't be sending off links all day long. Please just look it up. And so a lot of people, it's kind of like she's still oblivious. I hope that she wakes up soon. This makes us all pretty sad about it, because why even vaccinate then? And obviously a lot of what's going through our minds is just cognitive dissonance at this point. So Jesus, just fix it, you know? Please help this mother realize, you know, because homeopathy can also work in the same way, but without the injections of chemicals. She's not realizing that many moms still think that they're just injecting saline and virus into their babies. And so we've got this medical system that in our country right now that is micromanaging pregnancy from the start. So we're almost doomed to begin with, is what I want to get into. You know, what do vaccines do? And what happens to the baby's immune system initially, we're already vaccinating these pregnant mothers. When their baby is, like, the safest place your baby is ever going to be is inside your belly. Truly, truly. So your body is doing everything it can to keep this baby, this precious baby, alive. And we are just messing with it left and right for in-case instances. I've talked about this a lot. In my US Vax history post, I go over really the history of how these diseases, why they were terrible in the past and why they're not so terrible now. You had these really big populations back then, but even in Europe, let's just go with Europe for their history, and this is all documented. This is all, these people, these landowners had huge amounts of property, and on their property they had their workers that resided there. They farmed, they had their own, every landowner had their own, like, mini town or village, you want to say, that worked the land and got to live on the land. And as long as it was like one main family, but you had a bunch of these dispersed. Then there was an act that came in. The name of the act kind of leaves my memory at this point. I'll have to find it later. But now what ended up happening is it was this land grab act. Okay, so many of the people that lived on the land, that would till the land, farm, and they would have access to, like, the food, the water, they now all got shoved into these cities. And now you had these cities that were just completely packed with people. Just the population was way too much for what the city could contain. People were literally living on top of each other. They had one water source, and you would read about this, and they would literally be scraping from the top of the one main, like, you can't even call it a river because it wasn't being filtered out, but they would just have to scrape towards the top to find the clearest of the water. And that water they would all use for the same thing. They would use it for their cooking, to clean themselves, to make soup. So it was just this nasty, if you can imagine living with that many people. And now you're pretty much creating a breeding ground. Okay, look up Dissolving Illusions. It's an amazing book. Please purchase that when you get the chance, if Amazon still allows you to. If they don't, check it out on, like, Barnes & Noble should have it or something. Like, go out and find it. But you had all of these people that were just, you've now created this perfect breeding ground for all of these microbes and all. This is why people were dying in the thousands of things like diarrhea. Their bodies could, you're like, wow, their bodies couldn't even handle diarrhea. Well, consider what they were living in. It was literally living in filth. The water you were using was filth. This is also why third world countries still have tens of thousands who are dying from scarlet fever, cholera, tuberculosis, which, by the way, scarlet fever, for those that like to argue that there's, that we don't have it here anymore and they attribute it to, like, science and vaccines, like, we have never had a vaccine for that, so that argument just makes me crack up. But all of these diseases, down to scurvy, okay, were just going away as soon as we had proper sewage and proper sanitation installed. And so flash forward, what's happening in America now? Why is it 1 in 8 women, or 1 in 6, it's 6 point something million women in this country that want to have babies cannot have babies? What's happening? Why is 54% of our children suffering from some kind of chronic illness? What's going on with our kids? Well, okay, flash forward to, okay, fine, we have the proper sewage. Why are we still sick? We have a medical system in this country, like I stated earlier, that is micromanaging women while they are pregnant. You have a C-section rate, okay, that's outrageously high. It's anywhere between 35 to 50%. If you look up the history of C-sections and why they were even put into place, there was only supposed to be, at the time, it was an under 5% rate of women who really needed the C-section. It was called an emergency C-section. It was to save the life of the baby because there was no other way, and it was only to be used in just a very emergency only type of situation. You have women now scheduling their C-sections. You have women who are short, maybe tiny before they got, I was told with my first pregnancy that I was likely going to have a C-section, and don't be surprised if you end up in a C-section because you don't have childbearing hips. I was told that by my OB at Kaiser. Okay? They're setting you up for failure. You think, though, at the time that they have your best interest at heart, they're setting you up for what's best for you and what's best for your baby. Then you look at these medical bills and you realize, oh, okay, Kaiser's seriously the worst. The worst. I have that woman on my voicemail. I had her for 2 years, all the commercials they want to send you. And then all of the, hi, it's been like a really long time. It's been over a year since you've been in for a checkup. It's been over a year since you've taken Amelia in for a checkup. We're just calling to follow up. And wrong number. Who's this? And so from the gate right now in our country, and I want to say in other parts of the world, it's just not as bad as America. The death rate in America for babies is out of control in the first year of life. Our death rate is disgusting, absolutely disgusting. So according to Humphreys, along with NCBI, many peer-reviewed studies, you're getting this information off of PubMed. These are published journals. Breast milk is an organ, okay? It's the immune system of the baby. This is how the intestines grow properly and how the immune system grows properly. So you've got this overlying blanket of protection, and it's against all microbes that we're told to vaccinate for. The reason being because your baby's immune system is programmed to be anti-inflammatory. I want you guys to consider this. For the first 2 years of your baby's life, the design, the blueprint was that their system is anti-inflammatory, and breast milk is a must. It should be a must. You have the vaccinologists who are going to say that the baby's immune system is dormant, and this is why we have to boost it up and pump it full of aluminum and all of these vaccines that go against the blueprint. And this is why the vaccines need the aluminum, because it's an adjuvant. If the vaccines didn't have the aluminum, they wouldn't do what they're supposed to do. It still ends up in the baby's brain, though. And do not believe anybody when they tell you, especially doctors and nurses, because how dare they? Many of them have told pregnant mothers, and then at day one, because your Hep B already has aluminum. That's like, what hour old is your baby? 2 hours old, 3 hours old, right? They're telling mothers that the body is going to just flush that out anyways. It's like, oh, there's aluminum in breast milk, and your body just flushes it out. It's not the same, and find me the study that proves that it flushes them out, because we got studies here proving that it actually never leaves the system. It can't leave the system if you have other ingredients that are opening up the blood-brain barrier to get it to stay in the brain. You're doing this to them day one of life, okay? You are going against God's design and his blueprint. So it's anti-inflammatory for the first 2 years. With breast milk, you guys, there's still so much left that they have to discover with breast milk, okay? The science is still discovering new things every day. You're getting constant articles that pop up with, oh my gosh, this now. And they're discovering that they have a lot to learn still about breast milk. They're finding molecules on breast milk that can nuke cancer on the spot, all right? And you already have oncologists that are taking advantage of this. And molecules on it that will kill off a lot of bacteria that has capsules on them. The capsules that are outside the bacteria, like the pneumococcus. And we have a pneumococcus vaccine, don't we? The pneumococcal vaccine, your Prevnar 13. Many of you don't realize you're only vaccinating against 13 different strains of bacteria when there's hundreds of bacteria strains out there. And the more you give them that one, the weaker their immune system is going to be. Now those same strains are going to just get stronger the next time around. So like, we just keep playing ourselves. We just keep playing our body. And here we are thinking, she's stating here that the killing of a microbe there's massive inflammation, okay? But in the presence of breast milk, there's almost no inflammation because you have all of the anti-inflammatory muscles at work, okay? So it's this miracle organ, breast milk, that actually transfers over hundreds of thousands of T cells. It transfers over stem cells, you guys, and you have genetic material that goes into and intersperses the baby's own genetic material, and it cures off genetic diseases. Now, if you're a mom and you are struggling with pumping and you're not getting that milk out, and you know you're freaking out, and you've had even the donated milk, I got amazing news for you. Literature is out there showing that even wet nurses can cure genetic diseases. Meaning, if you're getting donated breast milk, that breast milk, even if it's not from you, can help the other baby that's not even your own baby. Okay? And it, yes, it's better that it does come from the breast directly. That's why the wet nurse thing, and many women, they've been around since the end of time. It's one of the oldest professions. You've had wet nurses for many reasons, whether the mother passed away, was not around anymore, or whether it was the saddest reason, which is just it was a rich family and the woman didn't want to do that, so she hired a wet nurse. Hi, Nicole. Morning. Hi, Monica. But, you know, obviously, second best thing would be, at least if you can't get them on your breast, get it through the bottle. There's still so much nutrients in there. I mean, there's so much working for their systems, and it's doing wonders for their systems. So it's okay. It's okay to get second best, third best. Just try. Just try, even if it has to be frozen breast milk that you had to end up thawing. And just, why do you think that they're not pushing this on women? Why do you think that they are not really, really like advocating for this at the hospital? Many women are not even told that it's going to take 4 to 5 days for your milk to really come in. Your baby comes out, and my midwife told me that their belly is, first of all, they come out full. Your baby does not come out starving. When they're initially coming to your breast to just be, it's really just to be with you. It's for comfort solely, and maybe to start somewhat practicing and getting used to it. But you're not like, hello, welcome baby, let's eat. It's like not like that. And so moms are getting discouraged immediately in the hospital. Immediately, because they're not even seeing a drop or two come out. Not even realizing you're stressed right now, because I went through this. I'm not perfect, and I'm telling you what I went through. Immediate stress. Stress came over my body going, wait, what's going on? Is she even feeding? Nothing's coming out? I was squeezing. My boobs were like size Fs. I'm like, they're obviously filled. You know, something. It's bigger than her face. What's happening? Why is nothing coming out? And I had not one nurse in that entire hospital bring me encouragement, say, it's okay, you know, it's really going to take several days for it to come in. And if you guys have been following along, this time around, I did take my placenta, but the first 2 pregnancies, I didn't do that. I still got a lot of milk. Nowhere near what I have now, where I'm donating thousands of ounces, but I had enough milk to stash for my own babies for over a year and a half. We had a lot of milk. I want to encourage you right now to know that I went to 5 lactation consultants with Amelia with my first. I damn near gave up. She was already 5 weeks old. She was already 5 weeks old, and I was at my final visit. They hurt so badly, and I was like, my other little pump is not working. I'm just not getting enough. One visit where they rolled in this hospital grade pump. It was the Medela Lactina Select, which if this country cared about your public health and your baby's health, they would offer this to just every mother, like from the hospital. And I want to encourage you, because with as much milk as I got for Amelia, I really only started pumping and getting into routine and schedule with her when she was 5 weeks old. And so you got moms that are like, 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, they're giving up, they're quitting, and thinking that that's it, their milk's already dried up. My milk was pretty much dried up, and that came back. Like, it came back because I just forced myself, put my body there. I would get my babies did my babies nurse off of me? Yes, they did, especially in those first 3 weeks, but in the meantime, downtime, I was on a pump to get them used to that. And with Enzo, up until about 5 months, he's just crazy teething right now. So it's literally like destroying and chopping up, especially this guy right here. This guy. This one's okay. This one, struggling. Gets the most milk though, but it's a struggle. But, my point is, you're not being encouraged. You are in a setting that is sponsored by Pampers, okay, and sponsored by Similac and Enfamil. So, of course, that stuff is right there in the hospital for you. I got the nurse that came in the night. Amelia it was the first night in the hospital. She had come in and she goes, I was already just like dead tired, you guys. My labor was 39 hours long. They told me I couldn't eat anything. I was just like in another level type of depressed. Had a nurse come in at midnight when they were coming in to do the heel prick thing, which, many of them don't even know the answer for. They're like, we just send this off to Washington. Oh, yeah, okay. So you're going to just pretty much get my babies, like all their information, genetic stuff, send it off to Washington because we are all in a system, right? Okay, great. I didn't know any of that back then, though. But now looking back, I'm like, they need to do that stuff. It's for their tracking, isn't it? Stop already with this. They care. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit so badly that they're not even telling their nurses why they're doing this. You've had nurses that you ask them and they're like, it's just protocol. Is that what they tell you to tell us? It's just protocol? Because I want to use that now for everything I do in life. Everything. Because if it's protocol to me and applies to me, then you know what? It's just protocol. It is just protocol. Okay? Oh my gosh, drives me nuts. So she comes in at midnight and she's like, hey, we're really concerned because your baby's not eating. And I'm like, what do you mean she's not eating? She's sleeping right now. She's fine. They're like, yeah, but the last few times we've seen you try and you're struggling. And we just want you to know, like, there's no reason to do this to yourself. We have formula here for you. It's good stuff. It's not the cheap stuff. Like, that was their upsell to me. We have this stuff here. And it was this guilt trip that they were putting on me, not even realizing at this time that, oh my gosh, like when day 4 and 5 came in, they became rocks. They hurt so badly, but they just started leaking kind of on their own, and I was just having an issue because at this point, getting her to latch, and that was my main issue. And it was like, I just didn't have the help. I've heard of these and actually interviewed one, was it a couple months ago already? She's a postpartum doula. Many people don't realize that there is a service that these doulas can provide, and it's not just for the birthing part. There's this woman here in Vegas, she does it, and many others offer it apparently. She offers a service that's postpartum doula. So it's only like a couple $100s, but it includes 5 or 6 visits after you give birth where they just come to your house and they stay for a few hours. They either play with the older kids to keep them distracted. They take the baby from you so that you can shower. They'll take the baby from your husband so that he can go to sleep for a few hours. Like, they do this. There are people and women out there who do this, and we used to have that back then. It was just this society and this country, the help that you just do not receive. Other countries like my mom in the Philippines, they have help. They have staff because it is the minimum wage in those countries is a joke. You can literally pay somebody $100 in US dollars and you can have a full-time nanny. I'm not advocating for it. I'm not judging the people that do it. I'm just saying we forget sometimes. It is 2019, okay? But I got relatives who pay multiple people to just live in their homes as long as they clothe them, feed them, and you have one lady that all her job is to do your laundry. But it only costs you like $100 a month. Because their wages out there are nothing. I overpaid one. I went there with my kids. We stayed for 5 weeks. I couldn't justify it. My cousin was like, do not overpay her, Natalia. I'm like, she's only charging $100. She's been with my kids day in, day out for 5 weeks. She's been a great help. I've been able to enjoy my vacation. But of course, she was with us like all the time. I didn't just leave my kids with a random. And my cousin was like, don't do it. Don't do it. They're only given up to a third grade education. They will not save this money. They will not know what to do with it. Don't do it. Just tip her a little bit. Jeff and I couldn't do it. We were like, no, there's no way we're giving somebody $100. Not for 5 weeks. Not for 5 weeks. So I gave like more than like 5 times the amount, and she like started breaking down crying, and then she didn't come back to work for 5 months. So my cousin was like, thanks a lot. But here's the thing. They're that inexpensive that when she came back 5 months later asking for her job back, they just hired her on. I'm telling you, you guys aren't realizing what goes on in other countries, especially third world. There's a lot of people who travel to Thailand, who travel to the Philippines. They want to start up businesses. They decide, if I'm making American dollars, I'm going to live like a king and a queen out here, and I'm just going to live here because I don't even have to drive anymore. What is it, like $120 a month to have a full-time driver? This is why I have family members that are in their 40s. They don't know how to drive a car. Why would you need to know how to drive a car if you can have a driver for freaking, no DUIs? Anyways, sidetracking. But my mom, after she gave birth, all 3 times, I think we had like 7 staff members growing up. So my parents, the first diaper they ever changed was like my kids' diapers. My dad sometimes, when I talk about my struggles with the kids and how hard things are, he'll sometimes just be on the phone and be like, wow, yeah, I don't know what that's like. Because they didn't know what that was like. They'd be like, oh, baby's crying here. And then to hand the baby off to somebody. Somebody was right there to take your baby for you and just do the thing. And so you have these mothers in all these other countries, okay? These are like the people I grew up with. I'm talking about, that's like literally where all my family is still. The way that they grow up, okay? It's very interesting, but you have they don't need to celebrate date nights like we do. We in America are like, date night with my husband. You know what? Every night for them is a freaking date night if they wanted it. Okay, they have the help. They don't have postpartum depression rates like we do in this country. They just don't. They think it's crazy that many mothers in America want to kill their babies. They're like, what in the heck? I know, I turned out so great, didn't I? We can go off on another, one of these days, let's just remind me there. Well, let's save a chat on this whole cry it out method thing. Not that I'm for crying it out at all. I don't think you should let your baby cry it out. I do think that there's somewhere that are just way too extreme on that spectrum, that they're like pull over on the side of the road in the middle of traffic or on an uphill where it's super dangerous because they won't let their baby cry, and you're like, you're in a moving car. Sometimes if you're just 10 minutes away from home, you just power through and you got to just get home. I don't think you should just leave a baby to cry the rest of the night. Like, of course, okay? But I'm just saying, for people that are like, oh, it really just makes you an angry person. You just get like, you're really, I just don't want to, where am I going to go with this right now? You guys are going to so judge me. But it's okay because I'll judge myself. But for people that have that argument with there's all this proof that it makes you, I'm going to tell you this. Me, my brother, and my sister, we never cried it out. Ever. We each had our own nanny. Each of us. They were called yayas. So I had my own personal yaya. Same with my brother, same with my sister. Do I seem like a very just stable, at peace, calm person to you? You can answer. It's okay. It's okay. I won't be upset. But for those that have this whole, they get really mad and they get really like, I was literally never had to cry. I always had an adult carrying me. There was always somebody skin to skinning with me, just like loving on me if my mom couldn't. Do I seem like like ready to meditate over here all day long? No. So I'm just saying that argument is out the window in my book. Just in my book. Stable and passionate. Dude, it's called a yaya. So my mom would give birth, okay? And she just was treated like a goddess, which is what women were supposed to be treated. It's a big deal. You birthed a baby. So now, what did she have to do next? Okay, well, all you got to do is lay down and breastfeed the baby. The mistake was that America came in, got involved in the 80s, not only bringing their DTP, which messed up all the Asian men, which now half of them have freaking eczema and psoriasis because of this, but they came in and said formula, because only the rich can do the formula thing. But all of the yayas and the people in the provinces, because at the time in the 80s, what you have to understand with a lot of these third world countries, especially Manila, there were only two classes. You were either very poor or you were very rich. Okay, your family owned businesses. It was a last name type of thing. That still happens in Asia. It still happens in the Philippines. I promise you, my parents were betrothed to each other. That was a generation ago. If I grew up in the Philippines, there would have been at least 3 or 4 different boys that were already supposed to be my choice in marriage. I know, that's a different topic altogether. We'll do that another time. But it's a family thing back home. It's not incestuous. It's just there's all these families, and I'm telling you, okay? My grandmother had 5 sisters, 2 brothers. Their families owned a bunch of businesses. 3 of her sisters were being groomed to be presidents' wives. Okay? That's how closely it's all connected back home in the Philippines. That's why I can't talk about half the stuff I want to talk about. But my mom had, what she tells me? She goes, right after you give birth, the maids, the staff, they come out, they get these big basins, okay? They get these big basins full of it's like boiling water, and you sit on top of these basins and they put guava leaves in there. And the steam from the guava leaves in this boiling water heal you down there. It heals any kind of maybe tear you might have had, any pain. And she's like, and we don't have the kind of pain you guys have. Like, you guys have to spray stuff for the next month. You go through all of this extra bleeding. And I'm like, really, Mom? Guava leaves? Bottle that up and become a billionaire right now in America. Bottle it up. Guava leaves, Mom? She's like, everybody did that in the 80s. And everybody in my family thinks it's crazy how malunggay, which is moringa, which is the supplement, that I take also to help with breast milk, they think it's crazy how it's trending now in America. They've been doing that since the 50s and 60s. It was just, what's the big deal with Americans? Take malunggay. It helps increase your breast milk. So quality of life, right? Quality of life. And, I don't know why this is pausing on me. Sorry, you guys. I don't know where it stopped. But quality of life back home is just, it's different. You go out, you get to just go out with your, here, my gosh, it still says it's pausing. Reconnecting. All right, 1 second, you guys. My live is paused on me. Poor connection here. Oh, man. Still not on. Can you guys see me? Man, it really paused. Let's start up again. I was getting into this and then the pause. Okay, let me restart it if you guys can hear me. Let's restart it.